Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we will be listening to the third part of What If RWBY and Weiss Were Childhood Friends. If you enjoy, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing down below. Now, without further ado, let's get into the video. Chapter 5, Agents to Students. The cold stung her skin, the wind against her was almost deafening and movies made this a lot easier than it was. Every single shake of her legs threatened to throw her overboard down to the snowy abyss that lay below. The train groaned as it sped through the tracks, but her eyes remained focused on what was in front of her. I'll be damned if I let a fucking brat kill me now. This was it. Years of training, missions, more training, and life or death situations led her to this moment. After this, they'd be recognized as professionals. Full-time agents. And today of all days? Well, let's just say it was the best damn birthday gift she could ever ask for. Yang. Just a bit more. I'm sorry, but you're on your own till then. She hears RWBY furiously typing from her earpiece, all while shooting someone every so often in the background. She couldn't help but feel proud of them. They'd come a long way from those scraggly kids who cried at the sight of one dead body. Now, they were alone on a mission to prove themselves, just her and RWBY, fighting a dude that set off tactical nukes that would start bombing multiple major cities across the world simultaneously, which would be about 3 minutes from now, by the way, if RWBY doesn't deactivate them on time, that is, and his cronies hell-bent on making sure it succeeds. Maybe she should accept that psych evaluation Uncle Crow keeps telling her about. Cause sometimes she feels like she's losing sanity every day at this job. A problem for a future special agent, Yang Xiaolong. She grins in excitement. Fighting the psycho bastard in front of her was like a shot of adrenaline straight to her brain. Don't worry, I can do this all day. She screams back with equal fervor, furiously blocking and dodging every hit made by her enemy with a sharp steel katana and an M11A1 compact, all while she trades blows, trying to hit him with her super-powered fists. The sheer speed he attacked made it hard to charge up and give him a full blast punch. Metal from the bullets and katana clanging against her own enhanced hands, you could say they were enhanced. She'd honestly laugh more if she could afford to be less serious, but she had to admit, he was good. She was just better. This was probably the mission of her dreams. She just knew after that she'd be chasing this mission high for a long time. You brat, I'll kill you, the man screams indignantly. I'll be keeping your body on display as an example for the new world to see. He laughs maniacally. See, this asshole's plan was to destroy maybe 3/4 of the world, then be the god of his so-called new world. Unreasonable, psychotic, these were the ones she enjoys beating down the most. These god-complex pieces of shit who think they're all that, but one thing they don't realize was that they weren't omnipotent. They were just flawed humans like the rest of them, and humans were fragile when faced with her charged meat hooks. That was how she beat him. He slipped up. The man began charging at her and raised the sword high, ready to slash her down. Guess he never expected she'd catch it. The moment the metal landed on her metal-covered palm, she snapped the blade in half. As she held the razor-sharp tip end of the blade, she quickly jumped back before lunging forward, pushing his own sword through his chest, making sure the steel digs straight through his body. That was it, her side was done. Now all she had to do was wait for RWBY to finish up. As she lets go of the half-blade, the man still smirked at her, eyes defiant. He was already down and out but still thought he'd get away with it. She bends down and grabs the pistol that was still in his hands. You think I'd be the last? He spoke so calmly, unlike his earlier manic-induced rage speeches. We know all, we see all, and one day we'll own all. We are the fire that'll burn everything, his smirk forming into a full grin. This is just the beginning. The moment he started laughing again, Yang just sighs, aiming his own gun at his head. For a dying man, he sure talked a lot. We are the Li. But before he could finish, she had already accidentally pulled the trigger. The gunshot echoed throughout the snowy mountains. For a moment she just stared at the corpse. She couldn't help but sigh a bit more. Fuck, that could have been vital information. But this guy wasn't the first dude to have plans for world domination lately, more and more of them rising up. Fuck, she should have waited a bit more for him to end his monologue. With a final sigh, she shakes her wrists, feeling the soreness once all of this dies down, the gauntlet whirring as it transforms back to its compact state. She was going to enjoy a nice hot meal, warm bath, and comfy sheets for the next 2 weeks. As she was about to go down and stop this hijacked train, her eyes spotted something on the man's collar. She swiftly grabbed and jumped down to the train's main command center before the tunnel's wall crushed her to Yang paste. Slowly, she lowers the lever for the emergency brakes whilst inspecting the emblem she'd taken. It was red with orange flames on the insignia, and somewhere deep inside her, she could see this to be the start of a very horrible problem. One step at a time, a problem for future Special Agent Yang and RWBY. Speaking of, "Hey Rubes," she asks through the earpiece, and the moment of silent and static had her stomach drop. But when RWBY answered, she couldn't hold back the laugh. "You'll be happy to know the world didn't get nuked." Yang could practically see the grin on her face. "For a moment there, I got worried." That made Yang roll her eyes. "I, on the other hand, had total faith in you. 3 minutes was more than enough time." "Yeah, if you weren't being bombarded and shot at." "I kept pressing the wrong codes because some dude kept trying to shoot at the back of my head, which brings us to our next problem, cleanup's gonna be a bitch." And as she looked at the various train cars littered with the same problem, "Well, problem for the near future?" Yang jokingly asks. "Yep, we should probably call for dispatch now. Oh, don't forget to get me a souvenir." Looking at the bad guy's gun that was still in her pocket, she smiles. "Already got one." It might have been messy, but yeah, this mission would be one in the books. The ride back to HQ was always her favorite time after every successful mission. All the stress and tiredness melting away as she sits in those plush leather couches, eating a batch of cookies and strawberries that were always just right next to her designated seat, and letting the hum of the aircraft lull her to sleep. She could relax those tense muscles that were working overtime just trying not to get killed by every single enemy they encountered. This was one of the things her and Yang differed in opinion. Yang enjoyed the thrill of jumping on top of a hijacked, moving train, fighting bad guys in every direction, but RWBY never quite got the same satisfaction. Sure, she enjoyed saving the world, helping people, and all that, but was it really so hard to ask that they'd have one mission with no guns, no violence, no people trying to kill her for doing the right thing? Was there a mission that just involved playing a video game to save the world? Maybe one day. If there was, she'd take that immediately, no further questions on consequences. Head first, don't stop, can't lose. She hears Yang snoring on the other side, mouth open with a little bit of drool falling on the side of her mouth. She smiles and closes her eyes. She'll think about possible future missions later, but for now, she needs a nice long nap. Once they arrive, an even nicer, longer nap. She pulls out the snowflake necklace from under her shirt neck, the thing that never failed to give her the courage she needed to finish an objective. Brushing her finger against the ridges in rhythmic and comforting pattern, she gives it a chaste kiss before falling into a dreamless sleep. When they arrived, the familiar sting of the cold hits the uncovered portion of her face, but as soon as they entered the headquarters, they were greeted by a familiar sight. Their Uncle Crow waiting for them in the HQ lobby, tapping his foot restlessly against the pristine white tiles of the building. Right next to him was Glinda, always checking her notepad for updates on every mission taken by every agent. She and Yang shared a smile before waving their arms, and as soon as Uncle Crow managed to catch them, he gave them a proud smile. Immediately their legs would sprint towards the man with open arms. "Uncle Crow!" They simultaneously called, giving their old man tight hugs and him giving them the same. "You guys did it," he pulls away briefly before ruffing their hair in an affectionate manner. "Sheesh kiddos, you like to cut it to the last minute." Glinda was already preparing for Doomsday Alert 7 when RWBY called to say you guys succeeded. She scratched the back of her neck awkwardly. "Yeah, sorry about that, I was, being pelted by bullets. And while RWBY was doing that, I was like, bam, clang, way bam." Yang interjects whilst reenacting the moves she apparently performed on top of a moving train. "Then he pulls out this sharp-ass katana, and then he was gonna slice me, and I snapped it with my bare hands and I stabbed him with his sword." She grins excitedly, then sighs in content, "Best birthday ever." "At least one of us had fun." RWBY rolled her eyes as she remembered the sheer amount of enemies inside the base. Yang had taken maybe a third of Adam Torres' cronies and him along with it, but she had to deal with, well, everyone they left behind. It was terrifying and exhilarating at the same time, but she sure didn't want to do it again. Glinda Goodwitch gives them a look of approval before gesturing them towards where they need to go, but not before placing a hand on her shoulder and telling them they did an excellent job. On the way up to Ojban's office, they see the other agents looking at them and giving a two-finger salute before going about their business. Now that was something out of the norm. Even Yang had to raise a brow at that one. Her sister, unable to quell her curiosity, asked the vice director herself. "Hey, Glinda, why's everyone noticing us?" The lady just smiles. She sure has mellowed down on them compared to when they first met, because of your feats. Saving the world with a time constraint like that and being able to beat the record of youngest recruit is sure to make people notice you. Whoa, what? It's true, you two did good, just don't go complacent and let things get to your heads. Every mission is different and it's only gonna get a lot tougher from here, Uncle Crow says, but nevertheless, well done. They continued walking until they saw a familiar group of rookie agents waving at them from the sides, her and Yang's only friends their age. Ruby waves back and grins before asking Glinda and Uncle Crow if they could say hi. The two adults just shook their heads and agreed, but not before telling them to come immediately to the big man's office right after. With synced nods, they jog towards their friends who wear matching smiles. Guys. Ruby runs towards them and literally tackles Penny Polandina with a big hug, the daughter of the head of weapons development and engineering. She and Ruby met a couple of years ago and have been friends ever since, having a very similar love for computers, tech, and weapons. Right next to Penny was a tall guy with shaggy blonde hair, John Ark. His sister and sister-in-law worked in the finance department, but ever since he was kid, he wanted to be a secret agent and fight for good. A year ago, he got approved to be signed up as rookie by Ojbin himself. He's a bit of a scaredy cat, but with the right training, John would be an excellent agent soon enough. Behind them were Ren and Nora, Ren giving a small smile while Nora flashing her teeth with a big grin. These two were taken in just about 2 years ago, orphans that were used as child soldiers. They got rescued by the organization and with their honed skills, they were easily accepted and recommended by Ojbin himself. Despite their rough childhood, both were amazing friends and were excellent mission buddies. With the four of them, they currently form Team JNPR, even if Penny rarely goes out due to her duties as engineer. Congrats Ruby. Yang. Penny says, hugging Ruby back, you were amazing out there. Shaw, Yang chuckles, shrugging her shoulders in a nonchalant manner, ain't no thang. Are you kidding me? It was awesome. John said excitedly, you managed to eliminate Adam Taurus. Cult leader now dead terrorist. Oh man. How'd you do it? What'd you use? He rambled excitedly, making all of them chuckle in enthusiasm. I wish we'd get to see cool missions too. Whoa there Johnny boy, calm down. Yang pats his back, we'd love to tell you guys details, but for now, we're being called up by the big boss man. John's shoulders slump in disappointment. Yang just laughs. You two did great, get ample rest, you hear? Ren says he rarely spoke, so each time he did it was a blessing. In comparison to his girlfriend, Ruby didn't quite know what their label was, but Nora assured her they were together. Nora, on the other hand, punched her fists against each other before pointing at her sister. Yeah, get some rest. Cause I want a shot at facing the punches that offed a terroristic cult leader, she says, grinning widely. Her sister matched the fiery energy with her own fist clenching. Bring it, Nora. On the ring we go. Yang. No. No fighting. Do that later. Meet you guys at our room after, yeah. Ruby smiles and they all said temporary farewells before heading up to where they were supposed to be. As always, the ascent to the tall man's office made her antsy, but this time it wasn't anxiety. There was just something in her gut that told her something was gonna go down and she wasn't gonna like it. The moment they arrived, Uncle Crow, Glinda and Ojbin clammed up. She knew something was up. Welcome back, agents, Ojbin says in a pleasant tone. It was unnerving most of the time. Excellent work on the Adam Taurus case. Please, it was easy, dude's a psycho but he's really sloppy, Yang says with a small smirk on her lips. Guess we proved ourselves, huh? Indeed you have, Ojbin chuckles, which brings me to my next point. Congratulations, you two are promoted, official agents at long last. From this point on you two can take solo and duo missions and take any objective you please. Ruby grins, this was it? The freedom to choose which cases to take. They'd have an easier time trying to get to the bottom of their mom's and dad's disappearance. What they've worked hard the past few years for. As per our original agreement, you two are still allowed to request anything within reason and the agency will provide for it. You two did a wonderful job. Official agents at last. They high-fived each other before looking at the tall man with a sly smile on his face. So, when's our next mission? Ruby couldn't help but ask. Remember that bad feeling she had? Well, this is where things went wrong. Oh, about that, as per contract, You two have been seeing active duty with Agent Branwen for the past 7, correct? Official missions aren't supposed to be taken by rookies, and seeing as you two were immediately bumped to agents in a way, Ojban asked. He knew the answer, he just needed to see them nod. With 7 years of active duty without leaves and vacations, the WPO would then require the employees to take a forced vacation leave. It's unhealthy for our agents to keep going on missions without rest, you know. What are you saying? Yang raises a brow, carefully asking the question. I think you know what I'm saying, Ojban chuckles. Effective immediately, you two are therefore on a leave for a year and a half. Management's orders, you will vacate your quarters and enjoy the given time, relaxing and not working on anything. Your next mission is after the provision. See to it that you take this time to enjoy a vacation like normal teenagers. Yes. But before they could argue, they were already kicked out of the office. They spent a good 5 minutes just staring at the hallway with an open gape, processing the information. After a while, Uncle Crow comes out of the office with a serious look on his face, but when he saw them, he looked amused. Congrats on the promotion, I forgot to tell you about the forced leave after 7 years of service, he chuckles. That rule makes no sense. Ruby replies, aghast, also. Why 7? Cause that's how long me, Ty and your moms went on missions without rest, it was implemented so no one else does it again, he explains. Now, rest up, I know just what you two can do in this provision period, I'll see you two tomorrow, before walking away. That night, they had a mini slumber with Team JNPR, telling stories about the things they had done and also the forced provision, and as much as it was fun catching with everything that happened today, stopping nukes, stopping bad guys, getting kinda laid off for a year and a half, she dreaded tomorrow but couldn't stop herself from passing out. With their goodbyes, they bid Team JNPR and Glinda a temporary farewell as they hopped on a jet where they didn't know the destination was. The moment it landed though, Ruby was taken aback by the sheer amount of people walking about. She wasn't used to landing on commercial runways, as most of the time they've spent, they were dropped from the sky to the most remote places in the world. The moment they stepped out, she briefly winced at the brightness of the place. The densely populated metropolis was something she hadn't seen in years. After all this time, they were here, they were in Vale. Surprise, Uncle Crow says, welcome back, kiddos, before grabbing their duffel bags and throwing them in the trunk of a taxi. The ride to, wherever they were going. They were filled with wide-eyed wonder as they took in everything that changed. There were more buildings, cars, the place was bustling with activity unlike everything she remembered from the past. Her hand immediately went back to brush her fingers against the necklace as she looked at everything. Yo. Rubes. They still have that burger joint Dad would take us to. Yang says excitedly. Memories, both good and bad, came rushing back to her. Nostalgia and wistfulness. She was a lot better at handling her feelings now, compared to back then. This is where you guys are gonna spend your provision, nice to be back, huh? Uncle Crow spoke up, and the rest of the ride was them looking at everything and everywhere. The ride from the airport to where they stopped was about 2 hours long with traffic. They thought they were going back to their old house, the one they grew up in. They were oh so very wrong. When they stopped, they began climbing up a hill, and when they got on top, they were met with a guard and an electric gate. Oh. Welcome back, Sir Branwen, the guard says eagerly, I wasn't expecting you to be back so soon. Nah, I'm not staying long, just here to drop off this place's owners, their uncle replies with ease. Girls, meet Robert, he's your security guard here. Robert gives them a bow before smiling. Robert, my nieces, this blonde gorilla's name is Yang Xiaolong. Hey. Yang says exasperated. This smaller geeky one is Ruby, Ruby Rose. Wow, rude much. Their uncle just laughs at their outburst. Anyway, they'll be staying here in the meantime, think you can handle them? I'll certainly do my best. Miss Xiaolong, Miss Rose, it's a pleasure to meet both of you. When Robert opened the gate, the more they got closer and closer, the more they stared at the place in disbelief. Are we casing the place or something? Ruby eyes the place. Robbing a mansion doesn't seem very, Agent Y. Holy fuck, Uncle Crow, you're rich. Yang says, dropping the bag on the lush carpet of grass that surrounded the place. In front of them was a huge modern-looking mansion. Hell, there was a freaking fountain in the middle of the driveway. 3 floors of fanciness, on top of a hill that overlooked the rest of the city. "Oh, this ain't mine," he smirks at their surprised faces, before tossing them the key to the big double door at the entrance. "It's yours." "What? You two have accumulated a pretty penny since you've started working with me. I took it upon myself to have everything sent to a savings account, for your future that is." "We get paid," her tone, flabbergasted. "I thought saving the world was like a charity." "Of course you get paid. Wanna see your savings?" Uncle Crow smirks and pulls out his phone the moment they nodded eagerly. When they saw, "Oh God. I'm rich," Yang mutters in amazement. "That's a lot of zeros," Ruby gulped, "but that much still won't be enough to buy this place, right?" Crow just shook his head. "Nah, this place was a lot, but I got the money from your mom's and Ty's savings, figured they'd want you two to have everything you want, and I for one, think you deserve it. Now, let me give you a tour." If they thought the outside was fancy, the inside made her feel so inadequate, which is saying something cause they legally own the place now. The living room had a huge 100-inch flat-screen TV with the most comfortable-looking couches she'd ever seen in her life. 6 guest bedrooms, 2 master bedrooms, 1 for her and Yang. The place had one room that was a library, an entertainment room, a gaming room, she squealed, a wide kitchen, there was a separate wine fridge that Crow said not to touch, a laundry room, and at least 5 bathrooms, 2 of which were both in their rooms whilst the other 3 had one for each floor. Everything, furnished, the cupboards filled with food that'll last them for months. Their rooms had walk-in closets with clothes based on their styles. The basement, as told by Uncle Crow, was a safe house that had enough supplies should they need to go on a mission, weapons, and stuff. The backyard had a giant pool that overlooked the city. Their favorite was the garage and workshop. This was what sealed the deal. Inside were 2 types of vehicles, a car and a bike, one for each for them. Yang's mouth was wide open the whole time. Ruby thought it'd never close. But she understood the sentiment. "The house is from your parents and this is from me," Uncle Crow gave them a soft smile. Yang practically drooled, like most of what she owned were yellow, of course their uncle knew. She carefully trailed her finger on the yellow and black Kawasaki ZX-10R before pressing her face on the driver's seat on her brand new similar color scheme Ford Mustang GT. Ruby, similarly, also got a bike and a car. A Ducati Panigale V4S that was mostly black with red highlights. The car, on the other hand, nearly made her faint. A red Audi R8 Spider with a customized plate that said R3DR0S3. They both simultaneously tackled their uncle for the gifts. "Holy fuck, this is amazing," Yang says, all ready to go cruising on her new bike. Considering she'd broken the last one, Ruby was sure she was raring to go. "Thank you, can't even describe it. Holy fuck. This is awesome." Uncle Crow just ruffles their hair affectionately. "You two deserve it. Do we get to try this out tonight?" Ruby asked excitedly, feet bouncing from the sudden burst of energy. "Sure kiddos," Crow smiles. "Listen, I gotta tell you something," he begins, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. "I'm going to leave tomorrow for a mission." They let the words sink in for a moment. "Alone?" Yang questions, getting down from her bike. Crow gives them a single nod and the excitement from earlier turns grim. "What's the mission?" Ruby probed. "Is it bad?" Crow shook his head. "Normally I'm not allowed to tell you, but there have been agents disappearing all around the world, just up and vanishing. Ajbin told me to find out why." Immediately her and Yang connect the dots. "You think it's related to our moms and dad?" Ruby asks. With another nod, Yang and Ruby gulped. "I've taught you everything I know, and this place is a fortress. You'll be safe here, for real this time," Crow says, before giving them tight hugs as if reading everything running in their heads. "Hey, it's gonna be okay. You promise?" Ruby asks before hugging him tightly. "Be safe, okay? You better get back to us, old man." Yang places her head on his shoulder, trying to stop the incoming tears. "Come back to us, you hear?" I know," the 3 of them pulled away, each discreetly wiping away a tear. That was the thing with agents, they saved the world but no one knew but them. The world didn't know each sacrifice they were going through to keep everyone safe. They'd never know. Even if you lose all your loved ones, well, that was the thing about being protectors, no one else will protect you. "Sorry I made the mood so dour," Crow chuckles. "Why don't we take that ride, eh? After all, I won't be the only one who's going to be busy." Ruby just raised a brow. still sad over the events the next day would bring. Let's go have some fun, you won't have time soon, you two are going to school starting to tomorrow until your provision ends. What? Chapter 6, All Grown Up. She didn't really get over it, and honestly, Weiss thinks she never could. Always stuck in the past, remembering the one awkward kiss. The chaste smack on her lips that left her a goner for those kind, shining, silver eyes, forever. In the last 7 years they haven't seen each other, her heart was just filled with a yearning, she supposed. There wasn't a night where she didn't cuddle the old, ragged blankie, as Ruby put it. Just soaking in the warmth that would have been arms surrounding her had her childhood friend stayed. There were hardly days where she didn't think of what became of her favorite dolt. We'll see each other again, that's a promise, the words echoed in her mind. Firmly etched in the deepest part of her soul. She shook her head and sighed. Was that just going to be an empty promise? Well, at least she wasn't alone. Blake was roughly in the same state as her. Pining over one of those blasted sisters. Always asking the same questions, how were they? Did they get taller? Were they happy? How much do you think they've grown? Common questions. Then after a while, self-doubt just creeps into them and they start thinking negatively. Did they forget about Weiss and Blake? Did they forget the promise? Did they even still feel the same? It was a roller coaster of emotions. Sometimes she'd wish she just didn't fall for that dolt and settle for someone more available. She wasn't that unpopular. She knew her assets, from her snow-like hair, dainty and petite features, excellent manners, and her pride, her intellect. Over the years, she'd garnered quite a lot of people confessing their feelings for her. Trying to vie for affection, but every time they get close, all she could think of was those damned silver eyes, adorable smile, and everything that made Ruby, well, Ruby. In her mind, no one could replace the girl. Troublemaking and mischievous, yet kind, sweet and caring. A sugar tooth unlike anybody she ever met, to match all the sweetness that coated the very essence that was Ruby Rose. She missed her terribly, even after all these years. Now, it was a dull ache that never left, and Weiss knows it's never leaving. Was it just a false oath? The ringing of the school bell pulls her out of her thoughts and she immediately begins keeping all her belongings, and as soon as she got out of the classroom, her best friend was already waiting for her outside. Blake, leaning on the lockers, holding a couple of books and notes as she chatted with one of the school's jocks, Sun Wukong. "Kmen Belladonna, you're always reading stuff, just once join our party. It'll be this Friday," he gives a charming grin to her friend, but what he didn't know was that the girl was already spoken for, by a hyperactive blonde with a penchant for getting into trouble. "I don't know, son, parties are never my thing," she hears Blake reply, but before he could try to further convince her, Weiss had already butt in. She says, "No, Wukong, what don't you get about that?" Her tone is ice cold, accompanied by a pointed glare. "Ack. Weiss." He chuckles nervously, "I just wanted her to relax a bit, you know, you could join too." "Lord knows you both need to lighten up a little," she wanted to answer back, but the moment she saw obnoxious blue hair, she grabbed Blake's wrist and began walking away with her friend in tow. "Think about it. It's this Friday." Sun calls back to them, but she didn't even dignify it by turning around. Heading straight to the cafeteria with her still holding Blake. She only let go when they had to get food from the nice lunch ladies. The walk towards their usual table was filled with stares and whispers. Well, that was just part of being popular, she supposed. Despite her not really wanting this. But with her friends being high-profile people, it came with the territory. "You guys got here pretty late?" Hira Nikos questioned. Like her, a fellow rich girl. Her family is a big name in the world of sports and entertainment. It didn't help that she was model gorgeous and nice to boot. If she didn't have a thing for a certain childhood friend, she might have been a little more susceptible to girls' charms. "Let me guess, got stopped again by a certain jock duo who wouldn't leave you alone." Coco Adele, fellow rich girl, school's top fashionista, she's confident and a little shit, but someone Weiss had learned how to trust. She just really likes messing with her in particular. Well, to be fair, Sun's not a bad dude, he's pretty respectful, just very childish. Blake speaks up, "I can't the same for Neptune. Ugh, I just wished he stopped, I told him over and over again I'm not interested." Weiss groans, stabbing her salad repeatedly. "It's funny how both of them are after you, but you and Blake are just taken by the mysterious childhood friends, right? Velvet Scarlatina giggles, teasing them. One of the school's top students, kind and pretty cute, they became friends back in their first year, here on school purely on scholarship, that's how smart she was. The girl amassed quite a bit of admirers the moment she started being a bit more confident, Coco Adele being the head of it, though the timid girl didn't know that. Feeling the back of her neck prick up in heat, she puffed her cheeks and stabbed her salad before shoving it in her mouth. Yes, sue us for being infatuated with people we haven't seen in years, Blake sighs, biting into her own food. No, don't feel bad, I for one, think it's really cute. Velvet assures them, besides, you never know how life works, they might just pop in here any day soon. Doubt it, Weiss says bitterly, 7 years of nothing? Plus, their uncle was a real busy guy, goes around place to place doing who knows, they might be at the other side of the world and we'd never know. It can't hurt to have a little faith, right? Hira says with a kind smile on her face, and if you two miss them this much, I can guarantee they reciprocate the feeling. In the off chance I meet them, I'll tell them about all the moments you were lame, Shni, Coco grins, all the pining, all the yearning, being a general lovesick dork. And the moment's over, thanks for that Adele, she replies snarkily, and the rest of their lunch was filled with their regular chatter amongst them. Before they knew it, afternoon classes rolled in, and with another blink, the day was over. They asked to move out pretty early, her and Blake. Surprisingly, at 15, their parents had agreed to it on the condition that they be neat and tidy. They weren't allowed to throw parties or invite a bunch of people that haven't been introduced to their families, which were understandable. They were simple rules that they easily agreed with. That's how they managed to live alone in a 2-bedroom apartment in the heart of the city. Certainly wasn't a big problem money-wise, with her sister being the head of the company when their mother stepped down. Everything was as good as it could be. Save for a few things she wished they could change. She sighs, putting her pen down, pinching the bridge of her nose. She really needed to stop thinking about it, just move on. If only it was just as easy. She stood up from her study table that already had about a dozen of things to be submitted by the next week, despite the fact that classes only started a couple of days ago. This was gonna be a brutal year. She practically dragged herself, plopping on her bed, hand instinctively reaching for the rose blankie that Ruby left all those years ago. Inhaling the familiar scent of roses from the laundry detergent she used on it. It wasn't the same, but she'd make do. For how long? She didn't know. But deities know that she'd be holding onto it for a long time. It wasn't long when she felt sleep pulling her in. She felt someone moving in her room and grabbing a blanket to place over her. She knew she was safe because it was only Blake. Despite it being lonely because of their incompleteness, she knew at least the black-haired girl had her back, and she to her. She fell asleep with dreams of loving silver eyes and the scent of roses surrounding her unconscious mind. In her head, she was still on her rest days. It was that little period where they picked what the available missions were or were assigned by the big man himself. Usually that was left to Uncle Crow, so Yang and her usually spent it lazing about in their room until they inevitably got called to complete an objective. So when she woke up after a 2-hour sleep, they went with Uncle Crow to the airport for his send-off. She was groggy, her eyes were bloodshot, and there was a raging migraine getting groovy in her brain. Ruby passed out again only to wake up another 4 hours later, late to school and body still aching from yesterday's fiasco. Groaning, she forced herself to get up knowing she wouldn't fall asleep again. She stretched her arms and scanned where she was. She never even made it to her bedroom, just passed out on the amazingly soft, plush couches. Yang was laying face down on one, letting out loud snores every so often. She smiled. That was something that hasn't changed and she was thankful for. She used her sister's snoring as background noise and found herself falling asleep better knowing it was there. Knowing it was safe cause Yang was passed out so deeply. With a yawn, she stretches again before standing up. They were already late anyway, why rush? Heading to the bathroom, she took a quick shower and brushed her teeth before heading to the kitchen to make breakfast. Years of particle microwave takeouts had her craving home-cooked food more often. With Yang's non-existent skills as a chef, it was up to Ruby to learn the craft. Surprisingly, she found a solace in it. She faintly remembered how well her mother cooked and it felt a bit like reminiscing. Every dish she made, every dessert she baked, it was like having her mom with her in those brief moments. She places the apron around her waist before opening the fridge to make this morning's menu, eggs Benedict and coffee for her, and Yang would maybe drink a protein shake with it. It was a rhythm she loved getting lost in, just letting her hands move. Every motion was smooth, and without even noticing it, she was already plating. To her it was hypnotizing. She always had fun, especially when she tried making a dish for the first time. She set the plates on the countertop and took off the apron before walking up to Yang and shaking her sister. "Hey, Yangus. Get up. We have school, remember?" She kept shaking, and when that wasn't working she had an amazing idea. Grabbing her sister's legs she pulled her down the couch, and with a thud and groan, she counted that mission a success. "Ow. Ruby." Yang gave her a tired glare, but Ruby just raised a brow and pointed at the big clock on their wall. Yang's eyes widened, immediately jumping up to take a shower. Ruby took this time instead to go to her new wardrobe to find something suitable to wear for school. Preferably something that wasn't too eye-catching. So she decided on a plain black v-neck, black jeans, and those red, leather riding sneakers, knowing Yang was probably gonna ask for them to take the bikes to school. She grabs a maroon-colored leather jacket, and with one final check, she could probably get around not being too noticeable. Plus, this was a fancy school. According to Uncle Crow, they were getting uniforms. She fixed her hair as best as she could, combing it with her fingers, and when she was satisfied, she pulled out the snowflake necklace, giving it a kiss before heading out. When she got down, Yang was wolfing down her food with gusto. She rolled her eyes and sat in front of her sister, eating everything in a similar fashion. When they finished, Ruby raised a brow at her sister. "You're wearing that?" she asks, and Yang just grins. "Duh. We've been living in the cold for so long, I needed to show off some skin." Her sister wore a fitted, orange tank top that showed off her arms, and every time she raised her it would show those abs she's always raving about. It was paired with these umber-colored cargo pants and white riding shoes. To finish her ensemble, a tan, leather bomber jacket with a yellow dragon sewn on the back and the word Xiao Long embroidered on the top and bottom respectively. In one word, her sister knew just what kind of attention she wanted to be getting. "You look so gaudy," she wrinkles her nose. "You look like you're into BDSM, Yang smirks. "Wah, no I don't." "Yes you do. Now, before this argument gets longer, we gotta jet, we're already late." Yang dashes off to grab their keys, and Ruby packs one of the extra breakfasts she made. She placed it in a container before following her sister to the garage. As soon as she got down, she caught the keys her sister threw at her, and Yang just wrapped the jacket around her waist. Placing aviators on her eyes, tying her long hair into a high ponytail, "Meet you at school," and the next she was already revving her Kawasaki. Ruby was left staring at the trail of smoke, and she just sighs. Of course she should have seen it coming. Similarly, she places a pair of shades on her eyes before going out and closing the garage. Carefully, she rode towards the guardhouse where Robert was and greeted him. "Good morning, Robert," she called. "Pleasant day to you too, Miss Rose." He tipped his hat before continuing, "Your sister went on ahead." "Yeah, she's impatient like that." Ruby sighs. She hands the man the food. "Here. I made you breakfast." "Oh. Gosh. Thank you kindly." "No problem. I'm kinda running late now, so we'll leave this place to you." With a farewell, she let the motorcycle run as fast as she could handle it, letting the sun seep into her skin and the wind mess up her further messy hair. Without the fast bikes, the drive to school would have taken a solid hour and a half, being on the other side of the city accompanied by traffic and all. But the ride just took her a little over 30 to 40 minutes. When she arrived though, she had to stare at the school for a minute to make sure she was in the right place. This place just screamed elite, smart, and rich kids kind of vibe. She gulped, looking nervously at the area. She saw her sister parked in one spot, leaning on her new Bumblebee, one hand scrolling on her phone and the other, holding a jacket that was slung over her shoulder. Parking next to her, Yang just gives her a big grin before snickering. "You're late," she says smugly. As soon as she got down, she gave her a punch to the arm that didn't even faze the blonde. "I made you breakfast, woke you up, and you left me, asshole." "Relax, baby sister, I just couldn't wait to try this baby out." "So what do you think about the lifestyles of the rich and prissy?" As she looked at the place again, she sighs. "No, I expected a public school." Crow said we gotta talk to the principal first, right? Let's go ask where it is, what we need, and dip outta here after that. Cool. We're skipping immediately on the first day. Please, I know for a fact you're already way too smart for this place and I don't need calculus or geography to know how to beat bad guys, plus, we gotta check the city. The sights. The food that we haven't eaten in more than half a decade. Fine, just today, mostly because we still need to fix up our house. It still feels weird to say that, like, yo, we have a house. Yang just nodded enthusiastically in agreement and they made their way inside the place. Unaware of the various eyes looking at them with wide-eyed curiosity. The inside of the school was just as posh looking as the outside, if only a little bit more school-like. Electronic lockers lined both sides of the hallway and it took a bit of walking before they reached their destination. The place was a lot quieter than she expected, guess it was because classes had started already. They reached the front desk. Sitting there was a kind-looking middle-aged lady, reading an article in a magazine when they arrived. When she saw them, she gave them a greeting they happily returned. "Ah, you two must be the transfer students, homeschooled, right?" According to the nameplate on her desk, her name was Janice. Ruby and Yang shared a look before realizing that they didn't know what kind of backstory Uncle Crow gave the school. They just nodded carefully with polite smiles to not tip off any signs that they were doing more than just schoolwork, being homeschooled. Miss Yang Xiaolong, her sister, raises a hand before giving the older lady her charming smile, and Miss Ruby rose, correct, she followed her sister's suit, giving the older woman her best attempt at it. "My, you two are just gorgeous. Come in, come in. The principal's expecting you." And they were ushered inside a very homey-looking office, filled with plants and has a window wide enough to let the sunlight through but not at all hot, with the AC blasting a nice 19 degrees Celsius. On the other side of the large desk was a stout man with graying hair, watering the plants. When Janice called his attention, they were met with an impressive mustache. The man wore a red suit with golden linings accompanied by a red cravat and oozed class. "Santa," Ruby accidentally said out loud. Yang snorted and the man just laughed heartily. "That wouldn't be the first I'd been called that." "Yes." He beckons them closer, making them sit on the two plush chairs in front of his desk. He waved at Janice and soon they were left alone with him. "I see, nice to meet you two and welcome to Beacon Academy." He extended a hand and they both shook it. "I see you two have bizarre circumstances that led you here. No matter, I've been made aware of it. If you two need anything done, I will do it if it is within my power." This made them raise a brow. "Whoa, wait, circumstances?" Yang asks, shoulder tensed and ready to fight just in case this guy wasn't on their side. He simply smiles, but you couldn't see it past his mustache, so you had to look at the amused crinkle on the corners of his eyes. "Of course, how do you think you guys got here? But those days are long past me. My old name was Special Agent Peter Port. These days, it's just Principal Port. I'm far too old to be dealing with that anymore." He chuckles. "I hear you two are quite the agents though. I suppose that Brat Crow has taught you really well. No wonder they got accepted into the school so easily." They just nodded dumbly as they listened to the older gentleman. "I got tired of all the danger. I just wanted to open a school to help guide the students for the future. That's how Beacon was made," he explained. "Rest assured though, should the provision get cut short due to an emergency, the teachers here are also retired agents. They'll be willing to give you a pass if the world's in danger." Well, that certainly made things easier. Now that we've caught up, I'd like to tell you about a story when I was still a younger agent, and maybe that should have been their clue to Bolt, because he talked for the next 30 minutes about all the things they've done in the past. All the past glories and all the "oh god, just make it stop." And that was how we managed to defeat one of the most violent upcoming dictators of our time. Well, I believe they called him the next Führer. And I managed to land a lethal blow on his chest with my axe. That's a really great story, Principal Port, Yang chuckled mirthlessly, just to appease the man. "We'd love to listen more, but we were expecting to, explore the school. Learn where everything is." She supplemented. "So, we were wondering where we should be going after this." "Oh right. My apologies girls. Guess I got too caught up in the past." He chuckles before handing them a piece of paper. "This is your schedules, best suited to your strengths, according to VP Goodwich. Please head to Janice outside to get your forms signed and uniforms fitted. It'll be given to you sometime this week. You are dismissed." They stood up and started making their way out, but not before thanking the eccentric principal. He just went back to watering his plants. "Oh, that's right," he called them again. "I hope you two enjoy your stay here. Be normal teenagers despite everything, yes." With that advice, they were once again out, letting one thought run through their minds. How could they ever be normal after everything they've seen and done? How was your first trip to the principal's office? Janice asks, I do hope you two aren't the troublemaking type. You two seem like really sweet girls. Yang immediately puts on her friendly smile, well, we sure can try causing trouble, especially if the way to the office is through a woman as lovely as you, accompanied by a playful wink. Wow, she was outright just winning the lady over, huh? Guess it didn't hurt to start getting in some brownie points. Really, thank you for your help. I'm sure if we do end up back here again, we'd love to see our charming front desk, she says, laid out a bit too thick, but it seems like the lady bought it. Bless her heart. Oh, what charmers. I can tell you two are gonna be shaking up the school in the romance department. Try not to break many hearts, you hear. Then she grabs their paper, inspecting everything before stamping it down and signing it. Alright, sweethearts, you guys need to go to our supplies office. They'll have you guys fitted if you don't fit in any of the pre-made uniforms. You two are quite tall after all for the ladies' side. Just head straight, then right on the first turn. At the end of it take a left and the first door should be the supplies. Straight, first right, and left, first door. Ruby nodded. Got it? Thank you very much, ma'am. Oh, just Janice for you too. Enjoy the rest of your school year. As always, her schedule was hectic, especially Thursdays. With classes from 8 to 5 in the afternoon, so usually by lunch she was already drained, just wanting to go home, cover herself in blankie and eat a tub of blueberry sherbet whilst watching a mind-numbing show on TV. So by the time chemistry ended, she was already dragging her feet just to get to her locker. When she got there, her friends were already waiting and gossiping. It wasn't just them though, it was as if there was a chatting epidemic all around. She couldn't help but raise a brow, questioning what exactly was going on. Sheesh, took you long enough, Coco complained. We've been talking here for a while now. About, she probed, impatiently. She was tired and all this gossip was making her head hurt. Apparently there are 2 new transferees here, 2 girls, and it's all everyone's going on about, Pira explained. Some even speculate that maybe they were big-time models or upcoming actors, Velvet supplemented. She just scoffed and opened her locker. I don't see what the hype is about, they're just transferees, that's not too uncommon. Yes, but the looks, the style, the attitude, those aren't common. Do I have a rival for best fashionista here? Coco says in indignation, we gotta catch a look at these gorgeous model-like ladies and see if my position is going to be taken down. How are you even gonna find them? This is a pretty big school with a lot of people, do you even know what they look like? Blake asked, looking more bored by the moment. See, this is why they were best friends, they knew just what the other was thinking. Who cares about some transferees, they had more important things to worry about then. Well, apparently one was a tall, about 5'10", ripped, long-haired, blonde goddess, the other was just slightly shorter, more lean but just as athletic girl with short, messy black hair with red tips, according to Neptune, Coco explained as she showed the text from the obnoxious blue-haired boy himself. Long blonde hair. Short and messy hair with red tips? Her heart suddenly went 0 to 100. She looked at Blake and she could also see the gears in her head turning. No. It couldn't be. But it didn't take long for them to get confirmation. Just a few feet away from them, Sun and Neptune emerged from the corner talking enthusiastically to 2 very familiar girls, but at the same time, also very different from before. She had dreams of this moment over the course of 8 years. Neptune's description was brief and accurate but failed to fully encapsulate the beauty that was before them. Her breath hitched when she saw a full view of the 2 girls' faces. Every single sweet memory of hers from childhood is going to be changed. From the sweet girl, with wide doe eyes, innocent and wholesome, gone, replaced by tight, red leather jackets that hugged the girl in all the right ways, jeans that just accentuate the girl's grown, assets. And a face that would make anyone faint in euphoria just to be blessed by that roguish, charming smile that was already making Weiss' knees weak. Woof, hello, meow, Ruby Rose got hit by puberty like a bullet in all the right ways. She could see how uncomfortable the girl was, but Weiss couldn't just swat the 2 boys away. Mostly because she already forgot to breathe and probably passed away in the process of seeing her childhood friends, their gorgeous childhood friends, again. When the 2 girls began to exit, her legs instinctively got moving until she and Blake stood next to the 2 boys who were, well, smitten. All of a sudden she was hit with the tremendous urge to hit these doofuses. Bye. We'll see you at the party. Neptune's smile was lopsided, cheek somewhat red from the interaction. Well, that would be the natural response. Considering those two. Her attention was brought back when they heard the roaring engines, and soon, the two girls were gone just like that, riding away from the school on racing bikes. Of course, RWBY wasn't done shooting arrows at her heart. Of course she had to be a leather jacket wearing, toned, and gorgeous, motorcycle riding deity. They said they'll think about going to our party. Sun grinned excitedly, I can't wait. And as soon as the two boys left, talking eagerly whilst she and Blake stood there staring at the spots where their bikes started taking off. Soon they were approached by the remaining people of their group. With their shocked, flushed faces, it didn't take long for Pira, Coco, and Velvet to connect the dots. Holy shit, you serious? That's them. Mysterious childhood friends. Coco's face was surprised, to say the least. What they felt was only a fraction of the word, shit. No wonder you two wouldn't let go. Sheesh, you guys better make moves soon cause that crowd's going rabid. Alright, that's where we'll leave off for the day. Thanks so much for listening along with me today. If you enjoyed, please like and comment down below. It really helps with the algorithms. I look forward to seeing you next time. Ciao for now, lovelies.